easy to get it wrong, and only the best teams that practice.
Oh, goodness me, and they are
particularly on corners. Of course, when you make the change with the rider on the front is quite key to making things smooth. So if you did what the rider did there and peel off after your turn just before a corner, it means that everybody has to go round you through the corner. You lose a lot of speed, and so the best teams again won't be doing that. They'll be making sure that they change their rider on the front on the straight sections, so they can easily just go past them and slot back in.
Big flick of the elbow out there from Romero, number 78, and it's looking terribly ragged for these guys. Now, you can see as they're coming into and out of the corners, they finally set themselves down. We had two riders disengaging and tracking back to the back of the line. And if you're thinking, well, what protection does this offer up riding behind a teammate? What are we, about 35, 37 miles per hour in old money, about 55 kilometres per hour. If you were to be riding in a car and you were to hold your hand flat against the wind out of the window, you'll certainly feel it. And that's the amount of protection that's being offered up, and more than that, by those at the front of the line. So they take the wind, if you like, and those behind rest up. It really does have a dramatic impact. You want dramatic, you want drama, and you want to see the best time-trialling team, a team time-trialling team on the planet, you may well be looking at it right now. Matt White has organised his boys. He won't tell us who is going to cross the line first. I believe we've got a birthday boy amongst the team today. More on that in a moment. Santa Romita is the man that is going for the general classification. The rest of the team are here for exactly this. Now, this is a superbly drilled team time trialling team.
It certainly is. They've finished a very close second in the previous two World Team Time Trial Championships to the Owen Farmer Quick Step team, but that Belgian squad hasn't really brought their A-team in terms of time trialling, which is why Orica have ended up being out-and-out favourites for today. They've got some huge engines in the team, 5 Australians here, of almost a recent generation of track guys, and Brett Lancaster, you can see there, second or third in line at the moment, part of the previous generation of track riders, all of them very, very comfortable at riding at 60 km per hour on the flat, and I'm expecting a very fast time, and the benchmark time for sure. I wouldn't be surprised if no one manages to pass them before the end of today.
I'm actually a little bit worried because Colombia are so ragged, despite the fact there's 5 minutes between them, and oh, look at that cloud. I tell you something, if Orica Green Edge get home and then it rains, it's over. Certainly as far as the team time trial is concerned. They don't have a huge challenge when it comes to general classification. Even Santa Romita apart, they're looking at sprints for Michael Matthews, basically, plus this team time trial. So I guess we can allow them this favour, if you like, of the elements that they run through today. Everyone else gets a dowsing and posts a much slower time. That cloud is very ominous.
For those of you who joined us from the start of this programme, you might have seen my interview with the Director Sportif, Matt White, where I tried to tease out him who might cross the line first and respectively, or hopefully go into the pink jersey at the end of today's stage, and of course he was remaining coy, but had a quick word today with Brett Lancaster, a former teammate of mine, and he said actually they generally don't pick anybody before, and it's whoever comes round and through to the finish first goes into that jersey if they have the best time. So will they perhaps talk between the riders and give it to Sven Tuft, who, as you rightly said, Carlton, it's his, is it 37th birthday, I believe, today?
He doesn't like to talk about it.
Will they give it to their Italian rider, who we mentioned, Santa Romita, or will they give it to Michael Matthews? The thing with Matthews is that he has a chance to go into that pink jersey, should they set the best time over the next couple of days, which should end up in a bunch sprint.
I think Matthews is a good call, because he will be looking for sprints. Time bonuses therein. No extra bonuses today, don't forget, because it is the time trial, and already suffering as far as Colombia are concerned. Shalaput, he's distanced, and once you're off the back of a train, it's almost impossible to get back on if they're at the limit, because basically you are taking the win all by yourself. There's no respite, and I think he's good.
Yeah, I think he it's difficult when you go up a climb in a team time trial. If somebody's feeling particularly good, it's very easy for them to put the rest of the team into the red. So again, the best drilled squad will actually go up there at more like 95%, just to make sure no one's pushed over the edge, nobody gets dropped. So you've got everyone capable of giving some big turns on the route back here.
Okay.
Tick off Saxon,
the group ride anyway, so
and the Irish tricolour there for all of you to see. He is their GC choice, although Arredondo I beg your pardon, Rafał Majka of Poland, also very much to the fore. Listen to the roar. That is for Nico. And away they go. Now, this is a half-decent time-trialling team, just courtesy of the fact that they operate in the World Tour and indeed have been a long-established team. They've sort of bedded in rather nicely last season and going for it this.
Yeah, they're doing a very good start, very composed, and that's important. You see the rider at the front there, just looking round, that is Nicholas Roach, the Irish rider, just to make sure everybody's there, and that is extremely important in team time trials. If you sprint out of the corner, you can see the ninth person is still going round it, and particularly on the tight corners, that can really put them into trouble. So Nicholas Roach doing the right thing, just starting off steady. Last thing that you want to do is go into the red over the first 2 or 3 minutes when you've still got 20 to go. And the others, I'm not sure if that's a premeditated thing or whether he's already starting to feel the efforts of his teammates in front of him, but he will just be shouting to them saying, "Hop, come back into the group before I come past," and that's another important part of the team time trial, communication between the riders to make sure that everybody knows what's going on.
Well, they had problems with Chalaput, they had problems with Romero, and they've now got problems with Toro. That is, of course, Colombia, and they're running out of personnel. You have to take the time from the fifth man home, and if he's distanced, Dan, you may as well wait for him and help him home.
Well, yeah, they're going to have to. I think they're down to, what, 6, 7 riders now, are they? 6 riders. Colombia over there on the right-hand side. So here come Orica Greenedge up to this first point at 7.9 kilometres. They'll be stopping the clock there soon. I'm expecting a time well below 9 minutes. Should give them an average speed already of over 53 k's per hour.
The crowds here, absolutely magnificent. They've all taken their spongy hands with their pointy fingers. And they'll be going particularly nuts when Nico Roche comes by in a wee while. We're looking at Orica Greenedge, and they're doing a superb job of just staying in formation at the moment. All personnel are here. It looks like they may well thin down a little bit before the end, but they need to protect Ivan Santaromita, and he's the man who's staying at the back and not moving forward and taking his turn on the front. They spread wide across the road to take this.
I think it's probably that the wind is coming from their left-hand shoulders as they come up here, so to get maximum protection from the wind, which is still an advantage even on a climb, they're just spreading slightly over the right-hand side of the road. But look how composed they were on that climb, really not pushing things over the limit in any way whatsoever, and that will really benefit them over the last part of the course. Let's not forget this is really only 1/3 of the way through, roughly, of this team time trial, so still a long way to go before the finish, and they'll really be able to put the hammer down on the second half of this race. Right, it might just have been that Matt White in the car behind was signalling something to Brett Lancaster, and he was just saying, I understand what you're saying, and we're all fine up here.
Francis de Jeux. Nasser Bouhanni is their super sprinter. Expect him to nick a few off Marcel Kittel. Eli Viviani and Bouhanni with Kittel, probably the absolute cream of the crop when it comes to our sprinters here. But don't count out the likes of Pataki from Omega Pharma Quickset. Even Ben Swift, of course, from Team Sky could go very quickly when he needs to. We are going to have some terrific sprinting days. That black cloud is looking very ominous. I bet Francis de Jeux are very glad to get off the ramp right now.
Yeah, Nasser Bouhanni looking for his first ever Grand Tour stage win here this year. He, of course, was part of the Giro d'Italia in 2013, but like Viviani and all the other sprinters, came up against a very in-form Mark Cavendish, who picks into the line on a number of occasions. And this year, of course, he'll be hoping that he manages to beat Kittel. More about the sprinters in this race later, but out of those here, Kittel does seem to be head and shoulders above the rest, and I think these guys are going to have their work cut out if they want to beat into the line on those flat stages.
I think this distance is short enough for Giant Shimano to do a proper job today on behalf of Kittel. They've got some big engines in there. They may not be the team that comes straight to mind when it comes to team time trialling, but they don't have that much of a distance today, and it's not that testy a terrain. And Kittel can climb in a reasonable fashion. That ramp that we're dealing with up to Stormont today for that first intermediate check. Tinkoff Saxo then, and everybody knows that Nico Roche is part of this team, and he's been doing a good job. He rolled off the ramp first. There he is, second from the end, number 201. He's a big powerhouse, isn't he? And he's a lot older than you think. I always think of him as a young man, I guess by comparison to his lovely father. But yeah, he's kind of grown up under our radar a little bit.
Yeah, 10 years professional already. He's not old, he turned professional very young at 19 years of age with, I think, the Cofidis team. and has had a very good career already. 2 times in the top 10 overall at Vuelta a España. And for those of you who saw my interview earlier will realise that his preparations weren't fantastic for this race, and the knee injury really hampered his training over the off-season, the winter months. But he said he's feeling good now. Here we go then, Orica Greenedge with one rider just coming off the back now.
Yeah, I think that was part, perhaps, of the plan, but Mitch Docker has done a big engine turn up there. They are looking after Santa Rita and Michael Matthews. Santa Rita for the general classification, so they lose one of their personnel. That's by design. I think as far as Colombia are concerned, it's by default, and in fact they're in danger of, if they shed another couple of riders, they're going to have to start waiting up. They've got one more joker to play, Colombia, who we'll see, I'm sure, in a few moments' time. But Orica Greenedge are doing a great job of chasing this down. 12 minutes, just over 12 and a half minutes into their run. We'll find out what is likely to be a decent time when these guys come through. Because Oric's word is already going round, and there's lots of shakings of heads. Paolini's not happy, the man with the beard. And next to him, Joaquin Rodriguez. They know they've got their work cut out here.
Yeah, well, it's not great, is it, for the GC riders? I mean, there's a lot riding on this team time trial for the likes of Joaquin Rodriguez, who was second here a couple of years ago. Number 181 there, the man that's finished 6 times in the top 4 of the last 7 Grand Tours which he started. And he'll be hoping to not concede too much time to his key rivals in this opening team time trial. And amongst those key rivals are a couple of riders from Tinkoff Saxo, who, as you said, Carlton, started with pretty dry conditions. Although, having said that, it doesn't look to be raining there at start just now.
No, and in fact, I can tell you that the drizzle, because that's all it is looking like it's starting to abate. But you never know with clouds. We could have a proper full burst later on. So it may well be conditions are variable throughout this for different teams. Somebody's going to be a big loser because of the wet today. I'm almost certain of it. Orica Greenedge, we digress. Orica Greenedge just coming up to 17 minutes into their run, and in this part, of course, it is clearly much wetter than at the finish, and the rain's coming down, and it's coming down good and proper right now at the finish line. The brollies are up, and so is, I think, the chances of Colombia. They started off the ramp first, which is going to be a massive advantage. They may not feature in the top 5, but this may help them not finish in the bottom 3.
It very much depends on how these weather conditions progress over the next hour and a half or so, because the last team nearing Satori don't go off until 7:30, so we've still got an hour and 20 minutes until their ride. Could very well blow over and clear up, and exactly what we didn't really want to see in this race is the discrepancy between the conditions that different teams have got.
3 kilometres to go, and you can see Rubiano there, number 79, clearly struggling just to stay back on because they're accelerating out of the curve. We've got 6 riders here. It's no good one man going off the front. Even the great Alberto Contador likes to reach out and grab for this sort of thing, and often punishes his teammates. And right now, the man that's doing that is Pantano, number 76. He went out, they have managed to catch back up. And all credit to the people of Belfast that, despite the rain, I guess they're kind of used to it, they are staying put, and there's no sign of too many brollies. I tell you something, if this was Italy, you couldn't see the crowds for the rain covers. Colombia, we thought he was struggling out in the last corner, and Rubiano's gone. They've got no more men to burn here. They've got to finish with the 5 that they have.
No, they've not got too far now before they hit the finish line. No, deceptively hard this part of the course. It's just a slight drag, but enough after having been on your limit for a long period of time by that point to really put the hurt on a number of riders. Orica Greenedge, well, will this rain hold out? If it does, they are going to be massively hard to beat, more so than they were before we even started this time trial. Still Santa Rita there on the back, hasn't done a turn from what I've seen so far in this race. Leaving it to the big time trial engines, we've got the current and former national time trial champions of Australia here, Michael Hepburn, this year's time trial victor, and Luke Durbridge, who won the event last year. Come through the second of the intermediate checks at 15.3 Ks with a time of 17 minutes and 37 seconds, which puts them 54 seconds ahead of Colombia, average speed of 52 Ks per hour.
If we were going to pick a team to be on today's podium in terms of time, Movistar would be amongst that trio. They, BMC and Orica Greenedge. This team, of course, contains a Colombian, Nero Quintana. He is a superstar. If you see him walking around, you probably wouldn't even blink twice. He's a very diminutive, unassuming character. More on them in a moment, because right now we have the finish of Team Colombia. And they've only got 5 men, and they have to stick together. It's the fifth man home that sets the time for those who cross the line here in this group. All their teammates will get their own individual time, but you've got to have 5 at the line. And this time is probably going to be better than perhaps they would have set had the rain not come down on those behind them. They've had, what, 60% of the course in the wet today. That final turn is going to find somebody out today, and they've already broken down even on this last 300 metres. It's quite a nasty, testy 90-degree turn at the 250-300 mark, but this is going to be our first time today. It's going to be over 26 minutes. That's not brilliant. There's the 4 plus the 5th man will stop the clock. 26.05 and sub 50 kph, not brilliant.
No, I think Orica agree.
Yeah, let's hope so, because otherwise it's going to be that sort of dice element, if you like, that's been put into the opening day. That is Joaquin Rodriguez nearest to us, and this is Orica Green Edge, and this time is going to be a bit special. There we go, they're down to, what, 6 men? That's a good number to have at this point. Just look at the time gap. Colombia finished in 26.05. Orica Green Edge are going to be sub 25 minutes here, so it's going to be a mighty minute for them, and in fact it's going to be nearly a mighty 2 minutes, for goodness sake. They're heading for that turn that we said, the 250-300 mark, and they'll be underneath that finish line in front of our commentary position in just a few moments' time. And this is going to be a very, very good benchmark for us. Sped out to the other side of the road, they keep it safe, just need to drive this one home. They know the rain's come, and they know that they've had a bit of an advantage, but they're being greedy, and this is good.
Canadian birthday boy and time trial specialist Svein Tuft has been on the front pretty much the entire last kilometre, and he crosses the line first of the team. We come across in 24 minutes and 42 seconds, a minute and 23 ahead of Team Colombia, and I think it would be fantastic if Tuft went into that pink jersey. Let's see what the other teams can do, but that's certainly a major benchmark time for everybody else to chase.
Yeah, birthday boy. I think he's got that nailed on his back, to be honest, unless it dries up entirely. Off the ramp we come then, and it is Lotto Belisol. Now, this is a team that picked up some new team time trialling bikes last season, and as soon as they got on them, they went extraordinarily quickly.
Yeah, they most certainly did. I think it's the Noah Fast is the name of the Ridley bike that they use, and they look fast on the side, and they seem to be doing the trick as well, because I think they first used them at the team time trial last year's Tour de France. They ended up something like 5th place on that stage, hand flat, really suited to the kind of guys that they had there that were there to lead out Andre Greipel. Meanwhile, Movistar, the Spanish World Tour team, losing Igor Anton. A little bit of a surprise there. Great climber and in some ways a good general classification rider himself, but will be very much at the service of Nairo Quintana at this year's race. Quintana still safely ensconced in the remaining Movistar riders here. Still young Quintana, 24 years of age. In fact, would be, I think, the youngest Grand Tour winner since Damiano Cunego here 10 years ago, if he was to win in 3 weeks' time.
Yeah, Cunego winning at 22. Oh dear, we had a tumble, or is that just somebody divorced off his team? Yes, it is. The latter, thank heaven. Not saying that's a good thing, but not as bad as it could have been. Nairo Quintana needs to stay there. Anton, that is not brilliant for him. Igor Anton, I beg your pardon, for Movistar. We saw him off the back. Struggling with Katusha at the moment is Gusev, as you can see, but he's managed to get back on, which is handy.
I think he must have had a problem. Let's look at the replay here now.
Bet it was, oh goodness me, breaks out straight to the barrier, managed to shed enough speed to get back on, and had the power to reach there as well. Swanbeer just races on. It was, quick response team. It looked like the milk tray man was going to help out there. No chocolates, you understand, just a dirty great big shove. Just to give you, looking at their split down, Movistar at 9.26, 4 seconds slower than Colombia. That's amazing, because Movistar are a very good time trialling team. Here comes Tinkoff Saxo. Now this has done some great favours for Nico Roche, because this is going to be a decent time for them, courtesy of the weather that is falling upon everybody else. But the race to the line, it's going to be 5, but they've come with nearly all their personnel. That's not bad.
No, I think they'll be reasonably happy with that. They come with a very rounded squad, including Mick Rogers, who's come back after the UCI overturned a suspension that he had for a clenbuterol positive after the Japan Cup last year. Apparently kind of recognising that he ingested it accidentally through meat consumed at the Tour of Beijing. So he's actually going in his second race of the season. He made his return to racing a couple of weeks ago at the one-day Classic Liège-Bastogne-Liège, but a very important part of their squad who have very big ambitions for the general classification here.
Track Factory Racing underway. Kizilowski is their big hope, but don't count out Arredondo, yet another Colombian. At least Colombia are starting to share a few of their fabulous climbers out and about. Arredondo could be an outside choice, but they're not going to start today amongst the favourites. They do have sprinting options as well, with Giacomo Nizzolo and Danilo Hondo, who should go well on this kind of course today. I'm still really reeling because of Anton. I was expecting him to at least stake a pact. Maybe they just do want one team principal. Who knows? This is Katusha. Man nearest to us is Joaquim Rodriguez. Now that man has finished second too many times in his career when it comes to Grand Tours. And in fact, if he wins this Giro d'Italia, I think he's amongst... he may well be the man who's finished most times and then won. I'm thinking how many Grand Tours he actually been in and how many stages he's actually contested and then won. We'll check that fact for you, but nonetheless too many, and he'd like that to come to an end and take victory here. 2012, he lost out by just 16 seconds to Ryder Eshgal on the very last individual time trial into Milan. And he doesn't want any of that nonsense.
No, he certainly doesn't. He comes up against the man on the left-hand side of your screen, Quintana, with very similar characteristics. Very good punchy climbers, particularly on the steep climbs because of the nature of how they are really. Lightweight bodies under 60 kilograms, which makes it much easier when the gradients kick over 10%. But there is a lot of time trialling over the next 3 weeks. We've got this team time trial today. We've got 2 individual time trials, although one of those is a mountain time trial, which of course will be down to the ground for them.
Incidentally, if you'd like to share your thoughts, we're on Twitter. It's Carlton Kirby, CarltonKirby, or Daniel Lloyd 1, DANIEL, so 3 L's in the middle, see, with a number 1 on the back. So Daniel Lloyd 1 or Carlton Kirby, and we'll take some of your questions because I think we may have time today. Movistar. Looking at them now and waiting for Quintana just to relay back, as you see another team teeing themselves up to take the start today. Sculpted Kirby bottles hiding in the frame, none of that nonsense. Here's Belkin, one of the retro design jerseys these days, and this as well is a team who can time trial extraordinary well. They've got a lot of power on board with the likes of Chillingy, Van Emden, Kaiser can go very well, Martin Kaiser, Rick Flens, Yetzabol is their sprint talent. He's been given the nod for this one, so watch him in the next couple of days. With Wilco Kelderman and Kreiswijk going for the GC and doing well in the mountains, you can be sure. Great to see the crowd getting involved with the rush of each one of these teams. It's fantastic. Great atmosphere here in Belfast.
This is scheduled for stage 7.
Yeah, Belkin, one of the kind of outside bets for today's stage, although given the way they're going to have to ride on the wet roads, it's not looking so good for them or anybody else that starts after, to be honest. Katusha continuing to have an absolute nightmare, in my opinion, out there. Second intermediates time check. 5th place for them, 1 minute and 13 seconds behind Orica Greenedge. And if we look at FDJ, who run really a strong time trial outfit, there almost 20 seconds difference between them as they come in towards the finish line now.
Francis Ségur then, this is going to be an interesting one for them. They'll easily beat Colombia, incidentally, so don't worry about that. They've only got a couple hundred metres to go, less than that in fact. There we are. The last 150 starts right now, and it's 5th man across the line, just to remind you. Are they going to get sub-26? Actually, no, it's not that much difference, which shows you what Colombia... 26 flat, that's what they're taking. But 1 minute and 18 down, 3rd quickest so far on the amazing Orica Greenedge, who also were blessed with the weather today.
Here we go then, the other French squad here, Team Europe car, who again have got a World Tour licence for this year. Pierre Rolland, their number 1, a guy that did very well in the Tour de France a few years ago. Many tipping him for a potential run at the King of the Mountains at this year's Giro d'Italia. See what the Frenchman can produce. We've got the Japanese rider Giro here as well, who's shown some great form over the last few weeks.
Yes, it's Giro who's nearest to our side camera. When we go to the start, you'll see him once again. He's a man who really burns himself for the team, but it's a terrific team spirit within Team Europcar. You all know about Tommy Vogler, or perhaps you don't. Some refer to him as a bit of a clown, but he's the most unbelievable motivator within the team. He's absent from this. He'll be dealing with the Tour de France, but Pierre Rolland is a man who has been, great things have been expected of him. He's another French false dawn, I'm afraid. Hasn't really worked out as far as the Grand Tours are concerned, and this day hasn't worked out at all for Team Katusha, and this is going to hurt Rodriguez very much indeed.
It certainly is. A time gap of around about 30 seconds between this team at Katusha and Movistar, who've just come through the intermediate time check, so a far from ideal start for Katusha. Into this race, it's kind of second favourite for the overall, and well, we were saying before we came on air that these first three stages are really about not losing too much time for the GC riders, and I wouldn't say that it's mission accomplished for Katusha and Rodriguez here.
I think that's the very polite way of saying it, and I think you are going to see a very forlorn-looking Joaquim Rodriguez when Katusha come across the line. They're already deep into the 26 minutes here. This is time that you have to make up with time bonuses and stage wins, and particularly in the mountains when it comes to Rodriguez. Look at that, it's terrible.
1 minute. I think by the time they come into the finish here, there'll be about a 40-second difference between the two here, Katusha coming into the finish, and Movistar, who should be in around about 4 minutes' time.
His own shoes, you know.
Yeah, that was a great link, actually.
We try to please. The security staff doing a terrific job here of just keeping a rather enthusiastic crowd at bay. I'm not quite sure about these air clappers. I don't really want to know what do you call them? I don't know. Yes, they kind of get in the way, and if they do start pinging off hands, they can actually cause accidents. Not my favourite thing in the world. But then again, they used to hand out cardboard hands until somebody nearly lost a bicep. Probably the worst paper cut ever. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. Still makes me feel queasy. Here is one of my favourite teams, actually, La Crema Marina, and it is Damiano Cunego, who is a former winner, don't forget. Won it at 22. It's a bit longer in the tooth these days, and it would be a huge gap between victories if he didn't.
It certainly would be. I don't think he's quite got it in him to take victory at this year's race, but has shown some consistent form over the last few months. But let's watch this Movistar team coming in towards the finish. Let's not forget that the finish time of the Katusha team was just over 26 minutes, I believe.
Yeah, 26 back more or less, and they're going to beat that here by, well, 23 seconds. That's the Katusha, certainly, because they both contain a favourite. But shipping 55 seconds to Orica Greenedge, who probably won't challenge for GC. Then again, they're taking a hell of a cushion. I think this Michael Matthews is going to be absolutely licking his chops. He's got the same finish time, don't forget, as our birthday boy today within his team, Svein Tuft, who will be wearing the leader's jersey tomorrow. But Michael Matthews, provided just has a half-decent sprint, will be into that tomorrow. Orica Greenedge then, with the best time, Tinkoff Saxo and Stephen Roach. That's a great run for them, only 23 seconds down, with everyone else being hampered by the rain. Nicholas Roach, I beg your pardon, Nico is, that's a great fillip for him at the top of this event.
Yeah, it certainly is, and also for Rafael Maika, of course, did great things here at the Giro last year. Ding-dong battle between him and Betancourt. 82 art for the white jersey of the best young rider, and he's back to improve on his 7th place overall last year. So 2 leaders for Tinkoff Saxo, and they'll both be very pleased with the outcome so far of today's stage.
Looking at Team Europcar right now, and they're just under 7 minutes into their run. They look reasonable. That's about the best you can say of it, but I'm just wondering, you know, if this is going to blow by, because right now there is no rain at the finish line, and I'm wondering whether some of those who are dreading it going later on, like BMC and Cadel Evans, they go 4th from last, incidentally, so 3 other teams to come after them, including Omega Pharma, Astana and Neri Satoli, who will finish proceedings today. Team Sky, resplendent in their sort of dinner suits, well, pinstripe city suits, I guess. Dario Cataldo, Edvald Bosenhagen, Damien Eisel, Gomez Enau, I beg your pardon, Sebastian Enau, Christoph Sutton. I'm getting mixed up with my French here. Puccio, Switzer, and Ben Swift, who can go very, very quickly. Now, this is not Team A.
No, I mean, they've got a very, very strong squad here. I mean, the likes of Bosenhagen, Ben Swift, you know, all the guys here very, very strong. But the Team Sky very much concentrating on the Tour de France with Chris Froome again this year. They were going to come with Froome's key lieutenant Richie Porte with desires for the general classification at this race. But got ill when he returned from Europe after a promising start to the year at the National Australian Championships and the Tour Down Under. And just the team decided to pull him out before the start so he can concentrate on being at 100% in July for the Tour de France. So it looks to me to be a squad predominantly going for stage wins here. Maybe overall, perhaps for Sitsov, third in line there, who's come top 10 here as well. And Cataldo second behind Ben Swift there, who's also been 12th overall on 2 occasions.
Well, they're extraordinarily well marshalled. Say whatever you like about Sky, they are brilliantly managed. They may be slightly diminished in some of your minds, but you just wait, the season is far from over. And we'll see how Sky go today. They've got some big, big powerhouses here, including the likes of Bernie Eisel. Sebastian Enau, incidentally, cousin of Sergio, he's only 20 years of age, and he's the youngster of the entire peloton. He really is a kid, but he's operating in a man's world and can do well. I don't think Lotto Belisol can, and I think today is going to hurt them. Let's see how they come across the line. And you see the time here. There's Francis Lejeune in 4th place. I guess they've actually done quite well of achieving this situation because they were down to 5 quite early on in this run.
Yeah, they certainly were. 2 stage winners of this race still remaining within this 5. I've already mentioned the Australian Adam Hansen. We've also got the Danish rider Lars Bak, who won a stage for a breakaway a couple of years ago. And the man on the front leading them across the line is their GC hope, the Belgian rider Maxime Montfort.
You're not mistaken, that was Colombia that have gone faster than Lotto Belisol, and indeed Colombia went faster than Katusha courtesy of the weather, but that's awful. If you're under 50 kilometres per hour, it's not great today. The weather, though, has hampered them, and 26.16 is what we have got for Lotto Belisol. Through some of the corners, they're not happy at all. This is Lampre Merida, number 101. In your face, Damiano Cunego. In fact, he's misrepresented. That's Anapuna, beg your pardon.
No, Cunego is number 100. Of course, and it's worth mentioning now, actually, that they don't have a number 108 anymore, and that's because of the tragic death 2 years ago, in fact, to the day, of the Belgian rider Wouter Weidert in this race. So nobody will ever have the number 108 again in commemoration of he. And that's why this team starts with the number 100, which, as you said, Carlton, is Damiano Cunego. Number 101 was winner Anacona, yet another Colombian in the race. They've also got another guy who might have designs on the general classification, the Polish rider Niemiec, who was good recently in the Giro del Trentino, which was won by Cadel Evans. They've also got the sprinter Roberto Ferrari, who is perhaps best known for wiping Cavendish and some of the rest of the peloton out in a sprint finish in Denmark at the Giro when it started there a couple of years ago, and going on then to take a stage win at the race a couple of weeks later. We've also got Matteo Bono and Manuel Mori, who's a very, very experienced rider. A couple of gaps, Carlton, already opening up within the Sky formation.
Yeah, I guess when you've got power, you use it, but you have to apply it gently. And the corners we were talking about, when you exit them and draw out a line, the danger is that it may snap. Luckily, they've got people like Eisel, and they've got people like Bosenhagen who can re-marshal it. We're talking about the way they are managed, Sky, and every single aspect of their racing plan is exactly that. It is planned and executed beautifully. They burst onto the scene a couple of years ago, and since then they have had unrivaled success for a new team, especially with the victories of the likes of Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome when it comes to the Tour de France. And in fact, I think they were rather surprised by their performance here on the Giro last year. It threw up some surprises to many of you. Right now, no surprise, it's a tough climb this, especially in the wet. I'll tell you something though, Lampereira doing a good job of holding all personnel together to this point. This bodes well for Europcar, who are not having fun at all. This is Cannondale on the ramp right now. Ivan Basso, twice a winner. He's 36 years of age now, just coming off the ramp. And there, another veteran, of course, here, Longo Borghini, also long in tooth, but high on ambition, I guess. Danny Ratto can go well, he's decent in the sprint, but it really is about the sprinter, Eli Viviani, that they will be thinking about. And they'll be hoping that they have a decent time trial. They're not a bad time trialing team, the men in lime green, as we watch Trek Factory Racing coming to the line. Thinking about Nizzolo and Hondo for the sprints. And this, well, not as bad as I thought.
No, they've not done too badly. The last intermediate time check, Trek Factory Racing were moving up very slightly, and as they cross the finish line here, exactly a minute behind our current leaders in 4th place at this point in time.
Trek Factory starts here in Ireland, 2 days in Belfast, then one down towards Dublin before the flight to southern Italy, and the race returning to its home. It's the 11th time, incidentally, that the Giro started outside of the boundaries of the boots that is Italy. And yeah, it's fantastic. The atmosphere here is just electric, as you can see. The crowds have turned out. I'm not sure how many or how indeed you measure it, but it is many hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, it certainly looks to be a few deep almost the entire way around this course here in Belfast, the opening stage today. 21.7 kilometres of the Giro d'Italia 2014, 97th edition of this race. Team Sky on the road in front of you at the moment. Bernie Eisel, one of the most experienced riders from this team. 199, Ben Swift there. Fantastic year for him so far. After a kind of injury-ridden 2013, which was a complete write-off for him. He's come back with a vengeance this year. A stage win at the Coppa Bartoli, 3rd place at Milan-San Remo, big surprise there, and then a fantastic performance at the Tour of the Basque Country, where he won a stage, but managed to stay with some great climbers. Well, I think only 14, 15 guys left coming in towards the finish, and of course he, by far the fastest of all of them, and taking a magnificent stage victory in a World Tour race there.
Yeah, I thought it was carrying a bit more weight as it came out of the winter. It's clearly done him some good, and it hasn't taken too much away from his climbing abilities. And that's quite right. He said we called him through the trees from distance, but almost didn't believe it, and there he was.
Maybe this is why you're not in great form, having lost weight over the winter, Carlton.
They may well be running a negative split, in which case they've got some energy left for later. This is Giant. Now, it's starting to dry up a little bit. The rain has abated at the finish line, and I think that Giant might just pull something of a surprise today. They've got a massive, powerful team, and of course, head and shoulders above almost all of them is the young man, is Marcel Kittel. One of the Champs-Élysées, don't forget, in what is regarded widely as the unofficial, albeit, Sprint World Championship, the last stage on the Tour de France. This is Belkin just approaching the finish. We'll come back to Giant Shimano in a moment. Let's just watch this team come to the line. And it's not a bad performance by Belkin. We said sometimes they surprise and take that extra stride forward, and that's precisely what they have done in difficult testing conditions.
5th place for the Dutch squad, then just behind Trek by a single second. 9 squads have come in so far. Current order, Orica sitting on top in a time of 24 minutes and 42 seconds. Behind them, Tinkoff Saxo, then Movistar, Trek, Belkin, FDJ, Columbia, Team Katusha. Currently last is the Belgian team, Lotto Belisol.
Yeah, indeed, I'm also looking at the back end at the moment of Chris Sutton.
Yeah, last-minute replacement for Pete Kenya, the British rider who withdrew from the start of this race due to illness. Chris Sutton himself coming back from injury. I think a problem with his knee after a crash earlier on in the year. Did the Tour of Romandy recently, which was won by his teammate Chris Froome, but obviously not still quite on his best form, Chris Sutton, and dropped off the back of the 8 remaining riders up here. Or was that 8 or was that 7? Can't count. 7 riders.
There we are.
I think Bernie Eisel perhaps also got dropped on the way up to Stormont there.
I think he did a big push early on. Big loser today so far is Joaquim Rodriguez and Katusha, shipping a minute and a half more than 1 minute and 33 to be precise to Orica Green Edge, but significantly shipping a good portion, unfortunately for them, 37 seconds to Movistar, who are 3rd quickest. Now,
I
There
don't
are
think it's on
bonus
Strava.
seconds
I've never
up for
seen him on
grabs
Strava.
during this Giro in Italia. It's on the intermediate sprints on an open road day, so not a time trial. You get 3, 2 and 1 if you cross the intermediate sprint lines. That's seconds bonus, incidentally. So those are seconds taken off your total time. And you get 10, 6 and 4 at the line. So the winner of a sprint stage will get 10 seconds bonus, or any stage in fact, that's contested as opposed to just against the clock a time trial. So you can amass stage wins. But for Rodriguez to pull out the bag so many stage wins to make up that deficit is going to be very, very difficult indeed. There's a lot of questions going on here, and I'm wondering who they've lost. And there's your answer. And it's not a man that they can afford to. I bet it's Kudigo.
I think it's Niemiec, but
It is, you're right. And they want him back because they have to nurse him and make sure he's up there and he's back on.
Well, there
for the GC.
Yeah, he's back now, but that will really have affected the time of Lampre, who actually weren't doing too bad. 7th at the first intermediate check. They haven't quite reached the second one yet. 18 minutes and 20 their time there, and the current best time at the second one, 17 minutes 37 seconds. So not a great start for the Italian squad. Not sure exactly what happened to Niemiec there, whether he got distanced after a corner or had a problem with his bike, but certainly the team car behind radioing up to the ride saying, look, we've got to wait for this guy. He was top 10 overall last year. As I said, great form in Trentino last week, or a couple of weeks ago, which Cal Evans won, and he's really their main pick from my point of view for the GC. So, you know, just had to stop and wait for him and let him get back on, because otherwise the race could have been over on day one.
Yeah, for him. AG2R Le Mondial in their brown and white. Handy shorts if you have a tricky moment. Here they are, they're off the ramp right now. Let's hope they go safely. Also a very handy squad. David Apollonio is their sprinter. He can go quickly, but it's Domenico Pozzovivo. Many people talking him up, and he's had some pretty good results. 10th in the Giro, 6th in the Vuelta last time by. So if you continue that progression, if you like, he will be a top fiver, who knows? If they go well, and it's drying off right now, favouring these late-running teams. Alexis Viamos also for them can go well. This is a team who should go well and haven't. Europe car, they've looked a bit tardy. Have they put anything into the second half of their run?
Although they were way down even at the first of the intermediate time check, just trying to see exactly what time Eurocar did there. 56 seconds down, 9 minutes and 56, so they're not going to be setting this race alight in any way whatsoever here.
No, in fact, I'm not sure what they will be lighting up today. It's not great at all for Pierre Rolland. It's going to be individual stage victories for him targeting, because as far as the title is concerned, he may as well be standing there waving it goodbye. As the crowd here scream them on. Terrific atmosphere in Belfast. Not a terrific performance, I'm afraid, by Team Europe car. And they shift a whole load. 10th, a minute 48 down on Orica Greenhead.
10th of 10 at this point in time. That's a lot of time to lose, 2 minutes, almost over a 20-kilometre course of 21.7. You can see that's Giro there just looking behind, all sorts of disarray amongst this French team.
Yeah. One of my favourite teams, Androni Giocattoli Venezuela. Why is it a favourite team? Well, courtesy of Gianni Savio, the Prince, they call him. There he is, DS, Director Sporting. It's hard to say what he looks like until you actually see him. But imagine a 1960s game show host, and you've kind of got it. He's a hell of a character, and he manages to sign up some great riders as well. Some of them, you might say questionable, but that may be unfair. He's got Johnny Hoogerland on board, that many of you remember being tipped into the barbed wire after a television card, not ours I might add, nudged into the riders out front. Antonio Fletcher also being cut to ribbons. Hoogerland's out there and he's on course, still carrying plenty of stitches, by the way. Lampre Marina don't look like they've taken too much of a stitch, I'm afraid. There we are, it's going to be 26, and they're looking at each other. fifth man over the line,
It'll be
stops the clock,
7.5k done, or 7k done.
at least they bust the 50, but a minute 20 down.
13k left to go.
Yeah, I think that really kind of goes to show how bad Katusha were on today's
I've
race.
already
The
done nearly
Ladbrokes
half the
team,
elevation.
despite their troubles, despite having to wait for their GC leader, Niemiec, still beat the Russian team by 13 seconds. So a really poor start for Katusha and Rodriguez in this race. Norwegian rider Edvald Thorsen Hagen here off the front leading the team in. Last year of his contract at the team, was possible talk with him leaving to go to somewhere else, perhaps Oregon Greener, so he'll be looking to do very well over the next 3 weeks.
Just about to take the final
Just
turn,
above
and this
where
is a
the
very,
correlation
very
is.
good time.
Green
Sky,
bar.
well, they had some rain, it's been a drying course, but Tikoff Saxo is their target right now. I don't think they're going to get quite there, but they've done a superb run considering that they started off in the rain, and Tikoff and, of course, Orica Greenedge were blessed with fairer conditions. It is drying, however, and I think this might be the start of some quicker runs right now. Sky and Movistar, they're going to beat Movistar's time and go third quickest with a 25.17, but look at that, 51.496 kilometres per hour. And down, they weren't the quickest in the first part of the course. We were talking about negative splits, and I think that was perfectly executed. Kept something behind and delivered it.
Yeah, I think they did a very, very impressive ride, Team Sky. I mean, they did start on wet roads, so to only concede 35 seconds to the Orica team, who looked so strong, I think is, well, job well done for the British squad. Only 12 seconds behind Tinkoff Saxo. I think they'll be pretty pleased with that today.
I think you're absolutely right. It's interesting as well to see occasionally you get a rider who just decides not to ride with spectacles. And yeah, a couple of their number, in fact, deciding to eschew the eye protection. It can actually be more of a hamper than anything else. Yeah, you just want to clear the eyes with, well, blinking, frankly, and you don't want all the gunk on your lenses occasionally, no matter how good the formula is that you've sprayed on to actually help the rain sheet away. This is Androni Giocattoli in their sort of multi-sponsored jerseys. They used to carry an awful lot more sponsorship, incidentally, so it was even more confusing. They kind of used to look like their design was that of a pizza. Just chuck anything on and see how it looks. But yeah, looking a bit more formal these days, which I think probably bodes better for them. And then Omega, Astana and Neris Ottoli, who will be our last. Giant Shimano setting their own rhythm, and it's not a dancing beat, I'm afraid. Although Kittel will be looking for stage victories. His ambition of having a decent time trial, I think it would have had to be extremely dry. The back are just peeling off the back. They're running out of personnel, and I think if they had a decent time trial, he may well have got the bonus seconds over the next few days. Perhaps found himself in the leader's jersey, because we have 3 back-to-back sprinting days after this team time trial. It would have given it a perceived advantage. You could have thought of 30 seconds, perhaps, in time bonuses at the line.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for Kittel now. I mean, they'd already lost a chunk of time at the first time check. Waiting for them to come through the second one now. But yeah, only 10, 6 and 4 seconds bonuses available on the finish line each stage this year, which is half of what they had last year. So even with 3 sprint stages, even if he wins all of them, he possibly still isn't going to go into the pink jersey, which is, I guess, a disappointment for Kittel, who of course won the yellow jersey on the opening stage of the Tour de France last year.
2012 winner, Ryder Jadal, his back end, familiar form, extremely long of leg, particularly between knee and ankle. And this is the team that has Tyler Farrar as their sprinter, and of course Daniel Martin, a man whose name is reversible. Martin Dan could be. Is he a Midlander? Is he a man from Ireland? Very much an Irishman if you speak to anybody here from the Emerald Isle. But they have some claims to him back Birmingham way, or West Bromwich way. Garmin Sharp then are on course. It's a decent team, and they can go well in time trials when they're minded to.
Yeah, it was a real speciality of Garmin Sharps, and probably a few years ago, I would say now. In fact, in their first ever participation at the Giro d'Italia in 2008, they won the opening team time trial. Christian van der Velde, I believe, going into the pink jersey there. It was kind of the old guard, though. Van der Velde amongst a couple of riders from that team on that day who have retired over the winter months. And looking at the composition of the squad, I don't see them really putting Orica Greenedge into any problems today. But again, another squad that will be looking to limit their losses with Dan Martin and Ryder Hesjedal, former winner, of course, as you mentioned, section, Carlton, for the overall competition?
We are looking at Bardiani on the ramp. This is a team that's often punch above their weight, usually on days where breakaway riders have their fun, and Pirazzi is possibly, well, certainly amongst the vanguard of those breakaway specialists.
Well, of course, we saw him animate pretty much every stage of the climb last year, Pirazzi, and well, he got his just desserts, winning the Mountains jersey. Actually, I wonder whether he's looking at all to the overall classification this year. He's kind of an old-school climber, Pirazzi, isn't he? He doesn't go at a constant pace like many modern riders do. He's constantly changing his pace. He'll be blasting off the front, even on a climb at 30 k's per hour 1 minute, and then almost at a standstill the next.
Yeah, I never quite know why. There you go. It's quite incongruous. Cannondale heading for the sub-26 minute, which is the absolute minimum you require here. And it is a very good time. They may well not have the smoothest style, but you know, it pays. And look at this, they're going to beat Movistar, who started today as one of the favourites. And it proves that drying conditions, we're seeing some faster and faster times. We're back up there.
Well, they did well. They were 20 seconds behind Movistar at the first time check after 8 kilometres. So they've had a great second part of this race. But I think, as we've already been saying, Carlton, things are starting to dry up over those last few corners now. So that will make a difference. And BMC will be really overjoyed if it continues to stay dry, and the sun might even come out here, because that will really help them. They're going off the line now in around about, we've got 5 minutes before BMC leave.
It's going to be Aussie joy today, you just feel it. All right, Svein Tuft is Canadian, we know that. But it is this, to go with Neri Sotoli, there must be cock-a-hoop. But BMC is the team that we're really waiting for. Orica Green Edge, you had that mixed run, dry and then wet, don't forget, are the benchmark setters so far. But some teams have come through and gone very, very well indeed, including Team Sky in a partially wet run, and Cannondale likewise, who engaged a negative split, holding something back. This is BMC, this is the team of Cadell Evans. He is, of course, a Grand Tour winner, and he's here to do some serious damage to everybody else. And I reckon this team, which, let's remind ourselves, Dan Lloyd, is a very good time trialling team, could actually have a party.
Yeah, I think they're going to put in a good time in this team time trial today. We're watching Giant Shimano now coming in towards the finish. The minimum 5 riders there. Marcel Kittel is the man on the front, sprinting, and I'm sure the others will be struggling to hold his wheel. He looks like he's on good form. Let's not forget, it's the 5th rider across the line who will stop the clock. So time ticking on there. Not a bad time though. 5th place looks like to be where they 6th place provisionally for them. Just lost a couple of places there over the last 100 metres or so as the clock ticks by. 56 seconds down on the current best time. But yeah, going back to BMC, I think they'll be very, very happy that things have started to dry up. They took the team time trial victory at the recent Giro del Trentino, with Evans going on to take an individual stage victory on a mountaintop finish and the overall classification. That's a team full of confidence. Brent Bookwalter is within the team, one of 2 Americans at this race, along with Tyler Farrar of Garmin Sharp. And actually this morning took a tumble, Brent Bookwalter, whilst practicing the course, not actually on the course, but after completing 1 lap. They headed back towards the start, and actually he hit one of these bollards like you see in the middle of the road here. Luckily unhurt and able to start today.
A bit of very serious climbing here. Serious contender has to be that man, Uran.
Yeah, Uran riding for Team Sky last year, firstly at the service of Bradley Wiggins, who came to the race as one of the favourites for the GC and the team leader of Sky. Uran, after Wiggins crashing or going out through an injury to his knee, Uran ending up 2nd overall behind Vincenzo Nibali, who isn't here to defend his crown this year. So Uran now the team leader of this Omega Pharma Quick Step squad. They've also got the very, very experienced Alessandro Patacchi, kind of in the middle of your shot there, who's won, depending on which way you look at it, 22 or 27 stages of this race.
Yeah, it depends on how naughty you think he's been, but clearly the authorities thought extremely naughty, and so took 5 of those away from him. Off the ramp, and away they go. I like this team. This is a team I like. Whether they like the course, I think they probably will. They certainly like the weather. 82 on the Mondial.
Climb tonight.
There they are. They're taking that final turn. They're going to hit
40,000
their
metres
weight,
of
I think,
for
because of the
January so
conditions.
far.
Yeah, I think they're going to be quite pleased with their time today. Pozzovivo, the diminutive climber there in the middle, of the shot, just sprinting. Still got a number of their riders left, a couple in hand for the 5th place across the line. And I think, again, for a team that's not really noted for their team time trial capabilities, they're going to be reasonably pleased with that. They're ahead of the likes of Trek Factory Racing by a couple of seconds, well ahead of Columbia and Katusha. Katusha, for those of you who've just joined us, having a horrendous time out there today. And really, Joaquim Rodriguez, one of the favourites of the oval race, the big loser so far today.
Yeah, well, we said you couldn't win it, but you can lose it. I think maybe Joaquim Rodriguez has done just that today, I'm afraid to tell you. It wasn't a great performance by his team. We're still waiting to find out exactly what the trouble was. This is BMC. This is the team of Cadell Evans. This is a very good team time trialling team. And just look at the beautiful way that they relay themselves down the line, tucking in, getting out of the wind. This is time trialling. Brilliant.
To me, they look slightly over the limit. Number 52 there, that's Brent Bookwater, the guy who crashed this morning. It looks like potentially he might be already getting dropped, which wouldn't be at all good news. He's a very strong time judge, Brent Bookwater, in his first ever Giro d'Italia, I think it was 2010, starting up in the Netherlands, second in the opening, I think it was either, I'm not sure it was a prologue or opening time trial anyway, that day. So he's a very strong guy on the time trial bike, and he'll be a big loss for the BMC squad today.
If you do take a tumble, oh my goodness! 4 down, and that's Martin, and he's holding his elbow, and they're not touching him at the moment. He's rocking and rolling. Let's just hope he's okay. He's taken a whole bite of the tarmac here, I'm afraid, and he's gone down hard on his left elbow, and he's staying there. That is not great. And oh my goodness. Well, we said the road conditions were very, very testy, and they have been bitten here, I'm afraid. Cardozo also staying down. He looks okay, but Dan Martin certainly does not. And they're having to wait. They're having to wait because they have to get 5 men across the line, and this is going to take time. Oh, Martin's still on the ground.
What an absolute disaster for Team Garmin Sharp here as they watch the other teams whizzing by on the other side of the road. This is game over, I have to say, for all GC ambitions for any rider on this team. Ryder Hesjedal, they're all waiting for Dan Martin, who actually just overlapping the wheel. I think it was Dan Martin who was the first to crash, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, that's it. Reaching out for it, grasping at it, and this is disaster. It was a drain cover. It was a drain cover. I don't know whether it started off the skittle, but he certainly went down very, very hard indeed. And worse than that, he stayed down. Back on the bike is Nathan Haas. And, well, everybody looking extraordinarily concerned. And this is the reason why. And Dan Martin is still on the deck. And that's the end of any ambitions he's had for the GC. And we just hope that he can actually continue within the race, because right now he looks in a bad place.
He does. We can't see him on our screens just at this moment in time. That is Cardoso there, the Portuguese rider who signed for the team over the winter. Charlie Regalius, the sports director, of course, looking extremely concerned, and that really could not have got off to a worse start for this team.
We've got one rider with a pedal missing, actually, at the moment, as you can see, and that looks like a nursing clavicle at the moment. Dan, just explain the position of the rider at the back there, and here he is, Dan Martin for the moment, and he's clearly feeling for the collarbone, and I think that's it, Dan.
Oh, I just don't know what to say, really. It's
coming up
after so many months of preparations, mental and physical, to come to a race and in the first 15 minutes end up like that is just horrible to see.
Too many riders went down, if you're wondering why they're still riding with damaged bikes. They didn't have enough bikes for them, essentially. They handed them all out because... and it's the wrong bike as well. You can't compete on a bike that's missized for you. And Dan Martin, if you're only just joining us, is on the deck, and it looks like a broken collarbone. He's sitting there absolutely static. He's in no hurry to get up, and he knows the gravity of the situation. Androni Giocattoli heading for the line now. What a shame for Dan Martin. And listen to the cheers of the crowd here. They've kind of regathered themselves. They're getting the news through. There's big screens up here as well. We're going to see proceedings, and they will not have liked the sight at all. Who would? Dan Martin hitting the deck. Round coming from the Giro as well, keeping it safe. It was a drain, a skiddery steel drain cover. They've all had to deal with it. It's the same for everybody, but it just seemed to chuck out to one side down Martin's wheel, and down he went very, very hard onto his left-hand side.
Now.
And he's holding on to that arm.
That's a bit of a burn up for me just there.
Right arm, I beg your pardon.
That should be given.
Minute 14
Don Mateo.
down for Adriani Giocattoli Venezuela. They are 10th
bit
at
of
the
help.
moment, but the team that's going to be plumb last, I'm afraid, is Garmin Sharp. And we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I'm
hugely disappointed for everybody in the race, really. They've got 5 riders back together now to force them to, they need to finish today.
The further you want the hand,
the jury takes some discretion at the time of the other riders who come in later on, because there is a time limit on today's stage, as there is on every stage, which a couple of the Ghana riders might well be outside. Looks like they've already lost at least one rider, one of their favourites for the race, one of the favourites of the people on the side of the road here today, and it really is the worst possible start for Garmin, for Dan Martin, and for all the people who are watching as well.
Again, Scarponi wearing number 1 nearest to us, and I think that's a warning beacon that has been lit to just about everybody. Agnoli in number 2, Aru, Rajkovic, Gasparotto, Bozic. We missed these guys coming off the ramp at Landa, Tirolonga and Zeitz, because we, of course, were looking and very concerned for Daniel Martin. Winner of Liège-Bastogne-Liège last year. He's taken some tumbles this year, including in that event where he was going to repeat the feat. Throw and past come Bardiani. And unfortunately, those are the legs of Daniel Martin. At least he'll be on his feet, but away to hospital, I think, and broken collarbone almost certainly done.
Yeah, it looked from the way that he was holding his arm that there was certainly something. He landed heavily on that side, didn't he, when he came down? And it, of course, happened so quickly at that speed, and I still kind of lost for words, really. I mean, you're looking ahead at 3 weeks, and all of a sudden it's all over in an instant. But in kind of excitement, for want of a better word, or dismay of seeing Dan Martin and his teammates crash, BMC did roll through the intermediate time check-in, 3rd place, 12 seconds down on Orica, so that's the best we've seen since the rain started to fall. Tinkoff Saxo is still 2nd there at 5 seconds, so this team going well despite Brent Brookwater dropping off the back. I think, am I right in saying that's Sammy Sanchez? I don't think I am, actually.
It is.
They don't come here with their A squad from that discipline.
Astana will be the next up. Storm and Hill. Right now, it's Neri Sotoli, all going off at 5-minute intervals. These are the last team off the ramp. And as you can see, some have taken a stroll into town. No disrespect to these guys, but they're not going to set the world alight, despite the fact they have the brightest, fieriest outfit of everybody. Rabatini is their man, along with Monsalve, the Venezuelan. Francesco Kiki, the veteran sprinter, and they just need to stay safe, and we hope that everyone does. They come off the ramp, and it is our last team underway on what has been a day of mixed fortunes in this team time trial. Well, we thought that Joaquin Rodriguez was the big loser on the day, courtesy of a dampened run. It's dried out, it was drier before his team Katusha went out there. It looked like his fortune was really the worst of the day, but it's been exceeded, unfortunately, in terms of injury. And indeed, he's out of the race. Dan Martin hitting the deck very, very hard indeed. And what a shame for all fans of cycling, and not least those who've turned up in their hordes to help cheer him across the line. They've had some good news, I suppose, in the form of Nicholas Roach and Tinkoff Saxo, who've had a very good run today, albeit blessed by good conditions. However, the late running of these teams in the dry may well nudge them further down the order. We're looking at Garmin Sharp, the hobbled team. When Dan Lloyd said that the commissaires would look favourably, what we're talking about is not being thrown off the race due to exceeding the necessary time limit.
Looking back at the BMC squad now, I'm just trying to count how many people they've still got here. 7 riders, so 2 have gone to the back. We saw Bookwater, the first of those, the American rider who crashed in training this morning, was the first to be distanced quite early on actually in the race. 16.5 minutes so far. The time at the second time check for Orica Greenwich, 17 minutes and 37 seconds. I think BMC are going to be somewhere up towards 18 minutes when they come through there. Amongst this 5 men that are coming in towards the finish now, but I'd say Tour very much over for him already.
Still no confirmation about Dan Martin, but he is out of this year's Giro d'Italia, I am afraid. 28 minutes. Oh, let's have a look at their average speed as well as they come across the line. Listen to the crowd, listen to the roar. Gladiators, all of them, but 3 minutes and 26 given away, and even if it wasn't for the break, that would be it, I'm afraid, for the challenge for all men from this team, including, let's not forget, Ryan Egenal.
News from the course, Team BMC have come through the second time check, 10 seconds down on Orica. They were 12 seconds down at the first check, so they're closing in on the Australian squad, and this could be a lot closer than perhaps we were expecting after we saw Orica's time.
There is Dan Martin before his arm was put in a sling. He is now on his way to hospital with a suspected broken collarbone.
This is that perhaps Nicholas Roach of Tinkoff Saxo was going to be the best placed GC rider at the end of today, but it very much looks like it's going to be the Australian Cadel Evans, winner of the Tour de France in 2011, third here last year in the race. Very, very focused on the race this year, and he is going to be exceptionally pleased with this time.
Big turn, the last one, 250 metres from the line. It may not be good enough to beat Orica Greenwich. It's going to push it close though, however. Very tight indeed. Still got 150 or so metres to go, but it is going to be second place for BMC. But amongst the GC boys, they're going to be the daddies. And I'll tell you something, Cadel Evans has done an absolutely amazing time here, as have his team. All right, they've had the blessing of the weather. They had a dry run here, but nonetheless, that was impressive.
Yeah, it certainly was. They're going to be extremely pleased with that time today. A lot of time that Evans has put into his key rivals in the race. In fact, more than a minute to some of the very, very key rivals. Amongst them, Katusha and Rodriguez, who's already a minute and 18 seconds down on Evans in the overall.
A terrific performance by BMC and by Cadel Evans. And if you're a Cadel fan, which I am, of course, unapologetic about, I think he's a terrific rider. He is a peculiar character, but he is totally fascinating. And who put it past the 37-year-old? We've seen men older than that. This one, of course, taking the Welsh at the age of 42, near enough. Orica Greenwich then. BMC, 7 seconds only between them. And indeed, of the GC boys, Cadel Evans is having a party. Where a Movistar on that list right there, I've got to tell you, the 6th place, 55 seconds down, so he's actually gained an absolute three-quarters of a minute, basically, on the main GC contenders before we've had any climbing.
Yeah, 48 seconds the difference between Evans and Quintana. For those of you who have just joined us, some very variable weather conditions for the teams. The first team of which was Colombia, who started out at 10 to 6 local time. It's now coming up to 7:45 here in Belfast. So over that course, he started off with dry conditions for Colombia, Orica Greenwich and Trek, who set some great times out on the route. Orica Greenwich, of course, looking set now to win this time trial, which actually was to be expected really before we even had those different conditions. But the likes of Katusha, the likes of Movistar, some of the other teams with GC favourites contained within, really had some bad conditions, really had to slow down and take things careful on the corners, and that has really affected the outcome of today's stage.
And yet again, the bunny hopping capabilities of the peloton being writ large. Here come
607 metres to go.
Oregon Farmer Quick Step looking for the line. This is a good time. Orica Greenwich, in fact, no wonder they are worried. They're about to take this final turn, and this is going to be close down.
Yeah, it certainly is, and let's see exactly what time they come into the finish with. 500 metres to go, 30 seconds. They've got this corner, it's going to be tough. They need to average 60 k's per hour, and I don't see them doing that. Only 20 seconds now to the time of Orica Greenedge, and going to be close, but not quite close enough for the current world team time trial champions, Omega Pharma Quickstep. But I think, again, they're going to be pleased with this results today.
I think so. It's not their A-team, don't forget. Great rivalry between Omega and Orica. And the line does beckon. They're not going to get it. They might get second place. They're just ahead of BMC. Here we go. There it is. And they do by a margin of 2 seconds. So 5 seconds down on Orica Greenedge. I think they'll take that, you know.
Yeah, I think they probably will do.
Omega Pharma Quickstep. And of course, Rigoberto Urán. And terrific that we have a good performance by Evans' BMC team and Urán's Omega Pharma Quickstep. They worked for that. Perhaps more than you think. It is not their A-team as far as team time trial is concerned. I think they took a step above themselves there.
Yeah, they certainly did. I was not thinking they were going to finish mid-pack by any means, Omega Pharma Quickstep, but they lacked the likes of Mark Cavendish, who's a great team time trial rider, especially, of course, Tony Martin, Kwiatkowski as well, who's been performing so well the last couple of years. And I thought without those names that they might struggle to be up there with the real big guns today, but they've proved me wrong.
Maybe it's the weight of expectation. They decided to match it. This is Astana on the course right now, just looking slightly ragged on the changeover at the back, but settling themselves in nicely on this straighter part of the course. They've got about 5 minutes of their run, 4 minutes, I should say, to go. Neri Satori then will finish us off today. It's been a dramatic day. There has been plenty to talk about, and in fact, plenty to sort of hide your eyes. Because unfortunately, if you're only just joining us and you're wondering how Dan Martin has done, he's done a collarbone. Neri Satori into the sunshine. It almost looks like they are solar powered themselves. They really are lit up in the gloom that is just starting to brighten and lift at the end of today. Oh, we have 150 metres to go for Astana. It's going to be outside of the top 5 for them, I believe, by the time they hit this line. Team Sky's time there. Team Sky going off in pretty damp conditions. And in fact, it's the second difference. But Astana on a dry run, not getting as close as Sky on a mixed run, wet and dry until the Saturday. So, it's one more team still to come. Neri Satori, we've got 5 more minutes before they hit the line. And, well, we know our result, because I've got to tell you that Neri Satori are not going to set the world on fire, despite the brightness of their jerseys. Astana then, one of our slow-mo camps here, just carrying them across the line.
Yeah, 6th place for Astana there, 38 seconds down on the current leaders, Orica Greenedge, and as I said, I think they'll be pretty pleased with their time as well. It puts them ahead of a number of key rivals. They're around about 30 seconds down on Evans and Urán, but of course, so many stages still to come. Anything can happen, but there'll be a few very pleased people and a few extremely disappointed people at the end of the day. I'm intrigued to listen to the reaction of Joaquin Rodriguez at the end of today's stage.
Performances today. Taking that final bend with 300 to go. Neri Satori, and they'll just open up the taps in the run for the line. 200 metres. Well, the men in yellow finishing their run, and in fact drawing the opening stage of this 97th Giro d'Italia to a close. Plenty more still to come, of course. 20 more stages in the run to Trieste. Belfast has been our glorious start to this first of the Grand Tours, and indeed first team at the top of the real timing screens. Orica Greenedge. I know Columbia went before them, but we knew that run would not stand. Orica Greenedge took over the King's Seat, and they have not been dislodged. They are our leaders, and in fact it will be Sven Toft, the birthday boy for Canada, the Canadian within that largely Aussie team, that will have the leader's pink jersey. Dan Lloyd's just heading down to try and have a chat with some of those who've been blessed today, I think you might say. I think that's fair to say. And their confirmation of the result. Orica Greenedge with a time of 24.42. Omega Pharma Quickstep did a great job to get close to them, helped by Rigoberto Urán, who's very much part of the thoughts for the general classification. BMC and Cadel Evans in third place, with Tinkoff Saxo fourth ahead of Team Sky. Astana in sixth place, Carandale, Movistar, and they can feel aggrieved, I think. 55 seconds down, that's Nairo Quintana. He's got a mountain to climb, quite literally. Several of them, in fact, and he needs to go very well and find 55 seconds along the way. There are time bonuses, don't forget, along the way. There are your team time trial standings with the gaps.
I do know these are
big ones out there, all the way down to